Hey, hope you're well. Good to have you with me again for the second in this Bible series on Genesis. If you weren't with us last time, it's well worth listening to the first one, just to build that overview picture. If you were, maybe you've had the opportunity to read through as I said, the whole of Genesis in um, well 20 minutes and write down or look at all the headings. That's how you do it in 20 minutes. Do 50 chapters. Look at the headings so you get an idea of the overview of the book. And just one thing, if you want to follow that bit line through with a little bit more detail, you could always go back through each chapter heading, and you'll find that the first paragraph of each chapter really does give you an oversight of what's going on in a little bit more detail in each chapter, and that really adds something to your study when you're trying to get an idea of the flow. So firstly, you do the chapter headings, find a version of the Bible that's got chapter headings. That gives you the headings, and as I said last time, you can discover from that, okay, I know where creation is, I know where Noah is, I know where Abraham is, Isaac, Jacob, and through to Joseph. And you can identify, that flow of the book and the key characters, because that's one of the things in Genesis. You'll find it's about key people, and the stories are told through those key characters, and then there's other people that get involved, but they're like the side characters. They're not the main event. So you might have Abraham is the main flow through. Then you find that Lot's involved for a little while as well. Now, the idea, if you want to take the time of going a little bit deeper and reading that first sort of paragraph of each chapter, the idea is that you're building a depth of understanding of the Bible, rather than often we can approach the Bible in a little bit of a scatter approach. We read a little bit of Ephesians, we read a little bit of Colossians, another book, and the idea here is really you start with that overflow, then you start to get into the nitty gritty. Now, today I'm going to pick up on a key phrase, and as ever, I want to give us something to think about from that key phrase. Then from next week, what I'm going to do is take sections of Genesis. For example, it could be the life of Abraham, it could be Noah. I promise I'll do them in order. And I want to take a section, firstly, give us an overview of the key points in that section. And then after that, if, for example, it's the story of Abraham, take one or two key times in his life, key stories, and develop those and spend a session on those. Each time, my aim is to help us find some places that we can land and some things to think about. Because the way we grow is when we internalize the things that we're learning. And Genesis is just such a rich book, full of seeds that develop through the Bible. And I think as we go through it, you'll be quite surprised the number of things that are there in that initial form, that starting form, and then you can discover it's part of the heart of God as we flow through, as you look through the Bible. So a little phrase I want to pick up for us that you'll see a number of times right through Genesis, is this one. This is the account of, or this is the written account of. And then it goes on and says a whole load of stuff about someone. But when you look at it, and let's pick up an example, it says, this is the account of Terah. Now, Terah, that's in Genesis 11, and Terah was Abraham, or then, as he was then known, Abraham's father. So the account starts by stating, this is the account of Terah. It goes, Terah becomes the father of Abraham, Nahor, and Aham, and Aham becomes the father of Lot. And he goes, while his father Terah was still alive, Haram died in Ur, the Chaldeans, the land of his birth. And it starts telling about Abraham and Nahor and them getting married. And you'll see the same later on just as it starts to talk about Joseph. It says, this is the account of Jacob. And then it says, and Joseph. And this is the thing I want us to get hold of and have a think about. Because if I was to say, this is the account of Nick, and then the following sentence was the life of my children, which is really what's happening in this passage. You know, this is the account of Terah, Abraham. This is the account of Jacob. Then it goes on, Joseph. And you realize that our account is demonstrated not just by what we do, or even not by what we do, but is really by the story we leave behind. And I want to challenge us. What's the story? And it doesn't necessarily need to be our children, but those that are closest around us. What's the story that we leave with them? That's our true account. Yes, everything we do has an account in heaven, but everything we do has an account on earth. And life can move on and things can move on. But how about if we were all to take a little bit of time and think, this is what I want my account to be. This is what I want my story to be. This is the impact, if you've got children or grandchildren, this is the impact that I want to have. Yeah, I want my grandchildren to know me as this sort of grandparent. I want my grandchildren to be telling stories to their children about me because. What's the because? What's the account? Yeah, and it's not just in practical, interactive things. It might be, for example, it might be financial. You might decide, I could start saving a small amount of money with the purpose of blessing and making a difference to my children's children. It's not, we're not talking about inheritance there in the natural sense, because inheritance in our society mainly happens, unless you're avoiding obviously inheritance tax, it mainly happens after someone dies. But what about the inheritance that we pass on when we're alive? Now, it might be your children, it might be your grandchildren, but you can go a bit wider. Who are the people that God has given you a positive influence over? What's the story they're going to tell about you? And I don't think this all happens by accident. There's certain aspects of who we are that will naturally be picked up by those around us. But here's a little example. I know Sue and I, we used to say when we were young, it's when our children were young, and we were a lot younger than we are now, that we wanted to deal with the things in our heart, particularly the generational stuff, so that our children didn't have to deal with the same things. So we wanted to leave something that became our story. And I remember hearing from one of our children, they said, I told them, my parents have dealt with stuff so that we didn't have to deal with the same stuff. Now, again, that becomes our account. So this weekend, take a little bit of time to ponder. Our story isn't written down as it's been in the book of Genesis. And the story is written warts and all, isn't it? We'll get to that, but you'll see that, there's drunkenness, there's lying, there's deceit, there's immorality, there's all sorts going on. And it's going on among some of the key characters, the characters that later on in Hebrews are seen as the characters of faith and everything else. So we see them warts and all, but they had an impact that lasts till today. The account of Terah is still being spoken of. Great name, isn't it, Terah? I just think, glad my dad wasn't called that. This is the account of Jacob, and then you get the life of Joseph. So what's the account of Nick? What's the account? Put your name in there, and then make some decisions how you're going to be seen, how your children and your children's children are going to talk about you, not just when you're there, but when you're not there. I think by being deliberate, we can have a greater impact on those around us than if we just let life drift by and hope that what we've done makes a difference. If there's challenges in your relationships with your children or your children's children, it's never too late to work through that and to keep working through, looking for breakthrough. It may be very difficult. It may, in some ways, for some people, not be possible or not seem possible. But while it's in your ability to write the account, keep trying to write and rewrite so that at the end of the day, there's not just a better story, but there's the best story. Anyway, hope you enjoyed my little thought for the day. I know it struck me just from that one phrase in Genesis. When I say one phrase, it's repeated time and time again. And next week, or the next session, when I pick this up, I'm going to take a chunk. I'll start with creation story and the fall and the creation of man and the fall. We'll overview the story, and then we'll pick some chunks out of that to build the Bible study. Otherwise, enjoy the sun and have a wonderful day. Bless you.